DBT, Mindfulness 1. Today's focus is going to be on the first of our acceptance skills, mindfulness. We touched on the subject of mindfulness in the overview, but now we're going to look more in detail. So mindfulness is derived from Eastern and Western philosophy, for example Buddhism, and is all about allowing experiences rather than suppressing or avoiding them. Paying attention to the present moment, to your thoughts and feelings without any judgment. Have you ever driven somewhere only to realise you can't actually remember any of the journey? This is acting mindlessly, and it can be automatic. It's very common. We often lose awareness of the present moment when we become overwhelmed with lots of conflicting demands. For example, work, relationships, kids, housework, bills. But this often means that we might become immersed in negative thinking about the past or the future. So first, let's look at a definition of mindfulness. Mindfulness is paying attention, on purpose, to the present moment, non-judgmentally. What we hope to do on the DBT course is to engage in some mindfulness practice each week in order to become more familiar with the patterns and shortcuts of the mind. It's important to note that mindfulness will not eliminate life's pressures or pain, but it may help to ground us so that we can experience reality as it is and respond in a more effective way, thus reducing our suffering and increasing our joy. Mindfulness not only calms the mind, it's also been shown to have a physiological benefit too. By deliberately slowing the breath, we're able to calm the nervous system, quiet the mind, and lower our heart rate. This helps to regulate full body responses, for example, when your heart rate races, sweating, shaking, all things that might be associated with intense emotions. Firstly, you need to be introduced to the dignified position. This is the way that we'll always practice our mindfulness exercises in group. So sit comfortably with your feet flat on the floor. Rest your palms on your thighs. Keep your eyes open, looking slightly down at a single spot. Inhale slowly and deeply through your nose. Pause naturally, and then exhale slowly and deeply through your mouth. Pause naturally again. You might like to repeat this for 1 minute, lengthening each breath into a steady rhythm. If thoughts pop into your mind, notice them and any associated judgments, and then return to the breath. It's important to note that mindfulness will not happen overnight. We must practice. Next, we're going to look at states of mind. As you can see from your diagram, there's 3 states of mind that we're interested in: reasonable mind, wise mind, and emotional mind. Firstly, we're going to look at reasonable mind. Reasonable mind is cool, rational, logical thinking, task-focused, and it attends to only facts. It ignores any emotion. This is in favour of it being practical or cool. It doesn't let feelings get in the way, and it has a cool approach to all problems. So what do you think are the pros and cons of reasonable mind? Well, without it, people can't build homes, roads, cities. They can't follow instructions, can't solve logical problems, they can't do science or run meetings. Reasonable mind is easier when people feel good, and much harder when they don't. So when people say, "I wasn't in my right mind when I said that," they're often referring to reasonable mind. If we think about the role of a surgeon, so that they can cut the right part, they need to be completely focused on the job in hand. If you were lying on the operating table, about to have your operation, you wouldn't want your surgeon to walk in just having had an argument with his wife, as then he would be in emotional mind. You would want him or her to be in reasonable mind. On the other side of the diagram, we have emotional mind. Emotional mind is hot, mood-dependent, emotion-focused. Emotional mind doesn't allow you to see things clearly. Your feelings overrule everything else. Thinking is difficult. Facts are amplified or distorted to fit with the emotions. For example, people may say, "I was out of my mind when I said that," or "I was not thinking clearly when I said that." So in emotional mind, you're ruled by your moods, feelings, and urges to do things. It's not simply the experience of emotions, it's when our emotions take full control of our thoughts and action at the expense of reason. Emotional mind is usually temporary, However, one can fluctuate in and out of emotional mind regularly. Emotional mind can be exaggerated by a lack of sleep, drugs, alcohol, illness, hunger, bloating, overeating, stress, threats from the environment like work, etc. So a lot of things can exaggerate emotional mind. Then in the middle of our diagram we have wise mind. This is a mix of cool and hot minds, the balancing of the feelings and the facts, and we're able to make wise choices. It's the wisdom within each person, seeing the value of both emotion and reason. It's the middle path. Some people think of wise mind as a well, and you have to search within yourself to find the answer. This can be hard or easy. Everyone's got a wise mind, it's just not everyone has experienced it. No one can be in wise mind all of the time. Some people get confused about the difference between wise mind and reasonable mind. The main difference is that reasonable mind doesn't care for emotions. It's too concerned with being cool and practical. Wise mind will soothe emotional mind, whilst also looking at the evidence and being logical. We're now going to introduce the what skills. These are what we do when practicing mindfulness. There's 3 what skills: observe, describe, and participate. We can only do one of these things at a time. The first what skill is observe. This is when we notice or attend to a sensory experience. You can observe things inside yourself, like feelings, emotions, and urges, but you can also observe things outside yourself. For example, sights, temperature, smells, sounds, textures. Just notice your body sensations coming through your eyes, ears, nose, skin, and tongue. Pay attention on purpose to the present moment. Control your attention, but not what you see. Practice wordless watching. Watch thoughts come into your mind and let them slip away like clouds in the sky. Notice each feeling, rising and falling like the waves in the ocean. Notice your experience without actually describing it. When a thought comes along, just notice it. Don't enter into conversation with it or judge it. Just return your attention to the moment. Step back and imagine your mind as if you're window shopping. Don't go in and buy anything, just look from the outside. Being distracted is completely normal, but the skill is to notice and to become aware that you are distracted. Remember, observations have no words. The describe skill is where we put into words what we observe. When a thought or feeling arises, acknowledge it. For example, say in your mind, sadness has just enveloped me. Or a thought, I can't do this, has just come into my mind. Label what you observe. Put a name on your feelings. Label a thought as just a thought, a feeling as just a feeling. Unglue your interpretations and opinions from the facts. Describe the who, what, when, where that you observe, just the facts. Remember, if you can't observe it through your senses, you can't describe it. To practice this, sit on a bench on a busy street or at a park, and just describe one thing about each person who walks by you. The final what skill that we're going to be looking at is participate. This is where you throw yourself completely into activities of the current moment. Become one with whatever you are doing, completely forgetting about yourself. Throw your attention to the moment. For example, dancing, cleaning, singing, or doing the washing up. Have you ever been singing along to a song wholeheartedly without thinking of what you look like, and then someone's walked into the room and you suddenly stop? You may have thought something along the lines of, oh, they must have thought I looked so stupid. Or have you ever turned down doing something you really like because you were worried about what others would say? This is not fully participating. Participating is a difficult skill, especially if you're self-conscious, shy, or have difficulties with other people. However, it can be extremely rewarding. Fully participating means to be more present and alive in all aspects of life. To practice this, play a sport and throw yourself fully into playing. Or take a dance class and wholly focus on the dancing. Maybe even just sing along to some music that you're listening to. It's important to note that a person can only do one what skill at a time, otherwise we'd be superhuman. Some people are better at one than others, so figure out which one you're best or worst at. The one that you find the hardest is the one that you need to practice the most. So to recap this session, we've learnt a definition of mindfulness, we've learnt about the 3 states of mind. Those are reasonable mind, emotional mind, and wise mind. And then we've learnt the 3 what skills. What do we do when practicing mindfulness? And these are observe, describe, and participate. In the next session, we'll be focusing on the how skills.